Our topic is towards integrated reporting, communicating value in the 21st century. So now I invite our session chairman, Mr. Asela Indrajit Fernando, to the stage. Mr. Asela Indrajit Fernando is a professional accountant in business. He was the past president of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka and a member of the International Federation of Accountants Developing Nations Committee. He has been the president of South Asia Federation of Accountants. He presently serves as the managing director of the Bartley Trans Capital Limited.
Thank you, friends. So we come to the fourth session of the day. And we've had a very interesting inaugural session yesterday where I think the base was set by the inaugural speaker, Dr. Professor Udita Liyanage. We've come to the fourth session towards integrated reporting, communicating value in the 21st century. And on to the choice of the theme of the session, I would say it's an appropriate area and use of the word towards integrated reporting. Friends, because it's an area where I'm sure we probably never conquer. It's something we have to keep at and keep improving. For that, let me just invite the three speakers, Dr. Aditya Halda, and Mrs. Aruni Rajakarya, and Mr. Suresh Gunaratna. Friends, we have three topical papers. One is the global initiative, the current developments in the global reporting, which will be done by Dr. Halda, and sustainable reporting by Mrs. Arun Rajakarya, and integrated reporting and the Sri Lankan experience, a very practical approach by my friend Suresh Gunaratna. To introduce the first speaker, Dr. Aditya Halda is the director of the GRI Focal Point India since it set up in January 2010. Dr. Halda is an expert in the corporate sustainability management with almost 20 years experience working in the areas of environment and sustainable development with leading companies and institutions. So as in the practice, we'll probably take 20 minutes for the presentation, and then at the end of the session, after the three presentations, we'll try to take some questions and also some remarks from me. May I invite you, madam?
Good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you, CMA and Professor Watawala. And I would also like to extend my heartfelt thanks to South Asia Federation of Accountants for actually convening this conference. And I'm fully convinced after this day that we actually used to travel to Europe and North America to listen to some of the best speakers of the world around the topic of corporate sustainability and accountability. But now I know that we don't need to travel, that far. I think we can get the wisdom right at home and here. So that's a big, I think, gratitude to both the organizations to have such an august, not only the participants here, but the collective wisdom of the speakers as well. With this, today we discussed in the morning on sustainability, sustainable development, accountability, and how different constituencies of the society, including the governments, are taking leadership to not only just talk about sustainable development at the conceptual level, but put down into implementations and actions. We have come to almost the end of the day, and we are going to discuss in this session about sustainability reporting. And therefore, when the topic comes on reporting, the question comes very naturally that who is reporting and to whom are they reporting? And the bigger question is, why do we need reporting? If there are, I've been often asked by many, individuals and experts that, okay, if there are actions in place, if there are policies in place, But still, why do we need to report? Because that adds to the burden of giving an extra work to already burdened employees and officials and decision makers to actually take it forward. So I'm going to actually present to you why reporting is now taking shape, why reporting is required, and there are many key drivers which were not playing so active role has started taking many proactive initiatives. And therefore, reporting is taking a very, very center stage role to drive sustainable development. And all of us are aware that the Rio Plus 20 is happening. Today is almost the last day of that. 50,000 people in the world accumulated with 191 countries together. So it's a great opportunity also to be here in this part of the world to say that we are not talking about concepts, but we are talking about something which we'll be implementing. So if we look at the paradigm shift in the business world, if you look at the first column on the left, the 7 points which are about aspects of markets, values, transparency, life cycle technology, partnerships, time frame, and corporate governance, we see there's the old paradigm, but in the recent past, for the last maybe 10 years down the line, we see that the new paradigm, which is a green patch, shows a marked difference. If we start from the aspect of market, we see it's no more just compliance, but it's about competition. Even the definition of competition and the scope of competition is changing. Values is not about just business, but more holistic. How can business values be just not looking at the financial aspect or delivering products and services, but also to look at how can each product, service, and its impacts create holistic value in the society. Transparency, the word transparency used to be a taboo almost 10 years back. It used to be closed. Businesses would ask always, why do we need to be actually transparent and why do we need to report? We know what we are doing best. Now I think everyone wants to be seen that the value of transparency is integrated, and at least it comes in the different forms of reporting, which is about openness. If you also look at life cycle technology, or even the way that products are being designed, it's not about just a product, but it's about the function. So for example, if a company is an oil company, it contributes definitely to the aspect of energy. Now these companies are looking at energy provision to the society, but through different sources. So movement from non-renewable resources to renewable resources has been the key agenda. And therefore, if you look at redesigning the business model, it is not based on products, but based on societal functions. And therefore, the inclusion of environmental and social aspects into that business model. The time frame, we were discussing in the morning about sustainability, whether it should be in the balance sheet, only reflecting this year and the next year's agenda, or should it be in the long term and therefore looking at key risks and opportunities which will actually shape and design the business strategy of that organization. Corporate governance is no more just an advisory, it has become more related to accountability. And therefore I was reading in the newspaper today that there could be transparency only if we consider accountability. And these two, in this very world of reporting, is very important. That reporting leads not only to transparency, but also accountability to key stakeholders. If you look at accountability, it's expanding from the former boundaries. If you look at this core center, which is compliance-driven, it is because of the law that everyone is being pushed to actually be compliant to that law of the land. So therefore, it was always, and it still is, risk management based or reactive in approach. It is now moving towards stakeholder driven because we are pushed, so we must, and therefore it's all related to reputation. We would like to be seen as good people. We would like to be seen as corporate citizen, and we are seen to be as responsible organizations, and therefore it's all about reputation management. But many companies in the world are now saying that sustainability and accountability is because we would like to contribute to the global solutions. So it cannot remain just compliant based, cannot be reactive in approach, cannot be only because we are being pushed and therefore we must do, but because we want to contribute to that global solutions of poverty, of energy, of education, of health services, and so on. And therefore, the statement that these leadership companies have now started to make is because we can, we will. And therefore, it is all around opportunity management. So if you look at the bottom of this elliptical diagram, you see the first one was code of law. The second one was, and it still is, code of public opinion. But the third one is the code of business. And therefore, sustainability is not just being seen as something to do good, but because we want to do good, we are a good business organization. Therefore, Peter Drucker, many years back, it's a very, very common statement which he mentioned that what you can't measure, you cannot manage. What you can't manage, you cannot change. So if you want to see the change, even as individuals, even as families, even as a society or a nation, we have to bring in change ourselves, but in order to get that change, we need to know how do we manage, and for doing that management, we need to do the measurement. And therefore, measurement is the key. So sustainability reporting is about measuring, disclosing, and being accountable to internal and external stakeholders for an organization's environmental, social, and economic impacts and performance towards the goals of sustainable development. Many a times, I would like to just pinpoint here that performances are about what we do. Yeah? So it could be quantitative or qualitative. But many a times, we tend to ignore the impacts. So performance could be one measurement, but where are the impacts happening and how much of that impact is leaving a negative footprint for the next generation or even for this generation many years down the line is often ignored. So that's one point I would like to leave with you. The second point here is GRI guidelines has been there for 12 years now. It's very, very young compared to financial reporting. So GRI guidelines is the first guidelines and now the most popularly accepted framework in the world, almost in 70 countries, that disclosure on economic, environmental, and social dimensions and governance are taking place as per GRI guidelines. The report which comes out of this, with the use of these guidelines, has 3 levels of information. But unfortunately, major focus comes around at the tip, where we see the results and performances. However, a typical sustainability report based on GRI should have the other 2 levels of information. That means the results and performance should reflect the management approach. That means there should be systems, structures, responsibilities, resource allocation, review and management processes also inbuilt to lead to the company to those performances and results. The management approach should be a reflection of the decision making, that's the governance, the profile of the organization, and the strategy. So if you look at the topmost level of information, that sets the context of the organization through which the organization actually keeps and makes decisions for the management and the results to happen. So it's really, the report should be a collection of information where it should be an iterative process of understanding results, performances, looking at strategy, profile, and governance. That should be a sustainability report and not just disclosures on performances and results which leave out the management systems and the strategy, analysis, and governance of that organization. If you look at this graph, which is about these 2, the x-axis and the y-axis, which intersects and gives rise to these 4 quadrants, we see the risks and opportunities on the y-axis, the internal and external spatial dimension of an organization in the x-axis. We see that there are many, many business cases for reporting. And out of these, you see that the reporting process actually helps not only in reduction of many emissions, effluents and wastages, but also leads to improvement management process, attract and retain talents, because employees are the key human capital in the organization, attract investors. We have heard from many speakers in the morning and even in the afternoon. Reporting also leads to stakeholder engagement, which leads to enhanced reputation and loyalty and competitive advantage. And therefore, we see that the global trends in reporting showing that there are more than 5,000 reporters in the world who have started way back in 1992 and is still continuing to report in 2010. If we look at the recent sustainability reporting survey by KPMG in 2011, we see that 90% of the G250 companies have continued and they are now developing sustainability reports. There are many reasons for, and many information which are happening and are there in sustainability reports. I have just mentioned, and they are all available in the document that is given to all participants of the conference. I am not getting into that because there are enough other information that I would like to share with you. If you look at the GRI website, which is www.globalreporting.org, we find a very interesting analysis. The lowermost line that comes out is that the sectoral analysis shows financial service organizations are the reporters who are having the maximum number of reports in 2009. In 2011, this has jumped to more than 360 companies from the financial service sector. It is followed by the energy and energy utilities sector, followed by mining, food, beverage, telecommunications, and so forth. Do you think that sustainability reporting is happening only in the developed countries? No. The developing and the emerging economies are also taking a very leading role and playing a leading role. For example, Brazil, it's not because of mandatory requirements, but because of the investors and the civil society campaigns that Brazil is one of the leaders, followed by South Africa, where the stock exchange, the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, has made sustainability and integrated reporting very much a part of the listing requirement. China, if you look at the website of China and the ministry, you will see that there are almost 700 companies from China who are now disclosing on their environmental performances, and they are naming it sustainability reports. In India, it's a different situation here. We have sustainability reports from Tata Group, Tata Steel, since the last 10 years. They are still continuing to report. There are almost 80 companies now who are reporting. None of these companies have left reporting once they have started. We see in South Asia, both in Pakistan, Sri Lanka and Bangladesh, that the number of reporters are going up. Even in the GRI website, all these reports are put up in the public domain, and this information goes to our 30,000 odd individuals and organizations as part of our network members. We see that all these indexes are including sustainability and reports based on GRI guidelines in their listing requirements. And therefore, we also see a big change in who is driving the reporting agenda. We did a very good analysis 2 years back named Carrots and Sticks, which talks about voluntary and mandatory requirements of reporting. So we did an analysis of 20 governments who are taking this leadership role to drive reporting for their public and private sector companies. We know about the Swedish government in 2008, which made a global commitment by saying that all its public sector enterprises would develop sustainability reports based on GRI by 2010, and they have accomplished that. We know of Aviva, which is a big investor group, who is leading a coalition at the moment in Rio with other investor groups to drive the campaign on Report or Explain based on sustainability reports. There are many instances of supply chain, where transparency and reporting has become a very good practice. which is instituted by the transnational corporations to build a sustainable and smart supply chain. We also know of many banks who are now taking forward sustainability reporting, because banks are these important financial institutions who would like to be seen as corporate citizens, demonstrating examples of imbibing sustainability. Ban Ki-moon, this was February 16, 2012 in New York. He is the Secretary General of the UN, and he said, "Let us work together to forge a global policy framework for companies publicly disclosing information on sustainability performance." Until yesterday late night, my colleagues in Rio who are representing Global Reporting Initiative has been twittering on the LinkedIn and on the Facebook, had just sent me a message that we are happy to inform that there are many, many countries in the world who are now going to seal the zero draft of the Rio by saying that there would be sustainability reporting framework at the global level. And that does not mean mandatory requirement, but very much enabling and requesting all governments to take leadership and put forward national policy framework suiting the local agenda to make sustainability reporting. So we'll have to still wait for some more hours when Brazil would see the sunshine and the day would close at the Rio. GRI is actually a network-based organization. So the Secretariat, of course, it's based in Netherlands, but our main strength is derived out of these 30,000 individuals and organizations across all kinds of constituencies and every part of the world almost. So the vision we have is to create a sustainable global economy where organizations manage their economic, environmental, and social governance performance and impacts responsibly and report transparently. In order to do this, our network consists of different levels of the governance structure and also the Secretariat. We have focal points in 5 strategically important economies, namely US, Brazil, China, India, South Africa, and Australia. We have the Government Advisory Group consisting of 14 governments at the moment from the world. India is represented through the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. The strategic alliances are with OECD, the Global Compact, UNEP, and ISO. Why? Because they all are principle-based and code of conduct-based initiatives. So in the reporting element, GRI says that if a company or an organization is disclosing information based on GRI guidelines, it would be accepted by OECD, UNEP, Global Compact, and ISO 26000. So what is a GRI reporting framework? A GRI reporting framework is developed based on a systematic dialogue with relevant stakeholder constituencies. And we have seen the evolution of the guidelines from G1 version in 1999 to 1997, the G2 in 1999, moving on to G3, G3.1, and now in 2013 May, we are going to have the G4. And all these evolution of the guidelines are being actually driven by our multi-stakeholder constituencies who goes through this consensus-based process where we have a strict due process through the technical committee, the stakeholder council members, and the board to finally take the decision. And the most important thing here is that we have to understand that India and South Asia is heavily engaged in the development of the G4 process. We are running currently the public consultation process from June end till September end, and I would request every one of you to go into the website and take part into the online survey to shape the way that you would like to see the GRI guidelines developing. In India, we are going to do 2 face-to-face consultations, one in Mumbai and Delhi, to create more awareness around the change that we are going to see in the sustainability reporting framework. The reporting framework is really like a box of tools. So we don't have just the guidelines, but also guidances on how companies can start reporting. Along with that, we have indicator and technical protocols, sectoral guidances across many sectors, such as these. We do have support publications, which are mostly freely downloadable from the website. So you can see a snapshot of sustainability reporting in the construction and real estate, for example. You can see and read GRI reporting in government agencies. Many examples of government agencies also started reporting. We have also, included a particular and specific aspect of sustainability. For example, gender, embedding gender in corporate sustainability. Do we need to disclose information around that or not? The other, guidance document could be global action and local change. How do we move towards sustainable supply chain? So these are all these research-based with lots of examples and lots of real examples embedded in these documents. The linkage documents provide enough understanding about if I am a signatory to UN Global Compact, how do I report? So there's a linkage document. If I am an OECD-based organization, how do I report? And I have to also kind of commit that I'm following the OECD guidelines. So these are all the linkage documents. The learning series also equally provide opportunity to all the readers to understand how they can start reporting and develop credible reports. Local engagements are happening, as I explained earlier, through the focal points, the GRI ambassadors, the training partners, data partners, and outreach events. What are our current priorities in this whole context of sustainability and reporting? In India and South Asia, we of course want to see more reports. The number has to grow. And all these reports, I would request that those of your organizations who are preparing sustainability reports can actually write to GRI and upload the report in the GRI website to showcase that India and South Asia is not behind any other economies. But of course, the most important aspect here is better reporting. And what do I mean by better reporting? It means credible and trustworthy information coming out in these reports. Unless the information is credible and trustworthy, the purpose of reporting is defeated. And therefore, how do we ensure that? We have to ensure that mainstreaming of sustainability reporting happens, as Mr. Raman in the morning mentioned. He mentioned about mainstreaming of ESG. That should reflect in the reporting, because once there are policies, actions, and procedures in place on imbibing ESG and mainstreaming them in the business strategy, there has to be also reporting, because unless communication happens, stakeholders would not be able to understand the organization on what stage they are in. And therefore, availability of information for decision makers and how do you measure sustainability impacts remains to be an unsolved question. Our current priority is also about expanding and enhancing the reporting framework, such as the movement from the G3.1 to G4, and therefore we are trying to see, can the GRI guidelines remain to be principle-based reporting, or do we still want to look at prescriptive reporting, whereby companies would be actually given with a list of disclosures and they would say that here is the information following the GRI guidelines. Whereas a principle-based guidelines would be how GRI had been for many years, to say that can you actually understand what are your key sustainability aspects based on materiality, that's a principle of materiality, or principle of stakeholder engagement, principle of sustainability context, and principle of completeness. Driving report or explain campaign had been very important, and developing integrated reporting framework is the new agenda that has come up since 2010. So alignment of reporting requirements. There are many economies who have their national frameworks, not on reporting, but definitely on sustainable development, on CSR. There are many speakers who spoke about this. And GRI guidelines had been with the most popular and accepted framework till date. It has been linked to many other international frameworks on sustainable development. In India, we have the DPE, where Professor Bhattacharya mentioned about what is happening in the public sector. In the Sustainable Development Guidelines, reporting has become one of the activity, and reference to GRI guidelines is also there. NVG stand for the National Voluntary Guidelines, where the National Voluntary Guidelines mention that those companies who are already reporting based on international frameworks such as GRI should continue to do that. What is the purpose of this? The core purpose is to reduce the burden of multi-tier reporting and drive alignment and harmonization, because I think we should not kind of waste our time to say that, oh, this is our reporting framework and that's your reporting framework. You know, this is where the problem arises. But where is reporting heading to? Reporting is heading to integrated reporting. Many of the speakers earlier mentioned about that. And what is GRI doing in integrated reporting? Sustainability reporting, which actually talks of environmental, social, economic, and governance reporting, will change to the G4 guidelines by May 2013. And this is the puzzle that we are now in, and the public consultation period is going to actually demystify some of this puzzle to say that how can the GRI G4 best fit into that developmental process of integrated reporting. So in the integrated reporting, institutionally GRI has been involved right from the conceptual stage where the IIRC has been formed. At the working groups, we are represented there. In the content and task force and the governance and subcommittees, we are also there as part of the integrated reporting framework development, which is governed by the IIRC Secretariat. With this, I'm going to now stop here, and I look forward to questions coming after the end of the session. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My topic is actually given by Professor Vatawala, integrated reporting, a conceptual framework. And I think this is, with due respect to the chairman of the session, it is an achievable task. We've seen